Shall we just go through the stack now? The knots are large on this. It's almost like a Kazakh rug, but it's woven with the white wool wefts. The back is pretty even. We don't see, I don't believe we see the variation in the number of wefts. And I would suggest that this is probably the product of an Azeri Turk. You know, one of the interesting things, certain point I was reading, human rights reports, some sort of world court in Europe. The Azeris in Georgia were complaining that they were being mistreated by their neighbors. And at that point I started to get an idea for there's large pockets of Azeris in places like Georgia today. Is it possible now that that rug was woven more towards the Georgian side? I think it's completely possible. But look at the colors. When we look at the amount of blue used in this rug, what does it tell us? Makes me think of Jack Kemp. If any of you folks remember Jack Kemp, he used to say, tax something, you get less of it. Subsidize something, you get more of it. Well, he was talking about welfare. I'm talking about blue dyes. Tax something, you get less of it. They have now taken blue, the primary color in Persian rugs, and made it just sort of an addition. They still use, but they don't use as much. Why? Because it's more expensive than the other colors. All the other colors in this rug were not taxed at the same rate as blue dyes. What a pretty piece. Whose is this?
Mine.
What can you tell us about it?
Well, Harold could probably tell you more than I can.
Always more than I can tell. It's a pretty rug.
Probably Carabao.
Yeah, looks like a carabao to me. Carabao was a mixed country. There's a terrible saying that there's nothing lower in the Caucasus than an Armenian. But what they really meant to say was all the bottom land, the best farms, tended to be owned by the Armenians, particularly in Carabao. There's also almost like a strata set by elevation. At the bottom, the valleys were Armenian. Next up were the Azeris holding the hillside. The Kurds tended to be mountain people. So rugs like this,
Very.
This has some sophistication in that the colors used in the votives are all different.
yes,
Combinations.
absolutely. It's got 2 shades of pink, which is something you don't see very often. At least 2 shades. The color is rather sophisticated.
Right.
Oh, isn't that a nice fun piece? Whose is this?
Yeah, that's mine. That was originally, had been converted to a cover for a pillow, for a front pillow.
Okay. I think it was cut out of a larger rug then?
I thought it might have been, although Harold said that he thought it was just a small rug.
Possibly. There's a concept of a maznad, or pushti, or you know, the idea of using a small rug as a cushion, and far more than just the Turkish people. So it very well could have been. It's an interesting piece. It's got a nice drawing.